Hello and welcome to our Sunday evening news update. Tonight we report on an external audit of the police, who were found to be less efficient and less effective than they could be. The Commissioner says the RGP embraces the audit as an opportunity to learn and develop. Some local passengers were not allowed on a BA flight this afternoon from Heathrow amid concerns it could get diverted to Malaga. The unfortunate travellers are spending the night in London while the plane successfully landed on the Rock. And the Minister for Civil Contingencies has confirmed that there are just 3 active cases in Gibraltar. A total of 4,099 tests have been carried out to date, with 491 pending. More on that in just a moment, but our top story. The Royal Gibraltar Police isn't as effective or efficient as it could be. That's the overarching conclusion of a report into the workings and procedures of the RGP carried out by the independent body that inspects police forces and other law enforcement agencies in England and Wales. Her Majesty's Inspectorate of Constabulary and Fire and Rescue Services was invited to inspect the local force last year as a follow-up to an earlier report. Its remit was to assess how well the RGP has implemented the areas for improvement highlighted in its 2016 report, and also how well the RGP promotes and ensures ethical behaviour. The HMIC says the Royal Gibraltar Police offers a good level of service to the public, but there are areas where it could improve. It found that the RGP met just 2 out of 8 areas for improvement identified 4 years ago, and says it expected to see that rather more had been achieved when it revisited in October 2019. This new report identifies 8 areas that require improvement and makes a total of 10 recommendations. Well, RGP Commissioner Ian McGrail has welcomed what he describes as the constructive findings of the report, which he says will provide an excellent opportunity to engage with stakeholders to enhance the overall service provided to the public. Our news editor Jonathan Sacramento has more details.
There is no statutory requirement for the force to be inspected, but both the RGP and the police authority agree it's good practice to undergo these regular inspections. The latest is the 3rd conducted by HMIC, and the resulting 40-page report pulls no punches. The first part of the report evaluates the progress since the last inspection in 2016. The only area out of 8 in which the inspectorate was satisfied was in the RGP's counting rules, which now align more closely with the UK's Home Office counting rules for recording crime. Previously, the force had been criticised for recording the result of crime investigations in a way that would maximise the detection rate. This issue, the HMIC says, has now been addressed. It still has reservations about the police's budgeting, but acknowledges that the force has limited freedoms to manage its budget, which is set out annually by the government. This leaves 6 areas of improvement in which the RGP has fallen short of the mark. They include the auditing of crime and incident reporting, the treatment of vulnerable and repeat victims, the procedures for assessing risk and prioritizing response, and understanding the full range of current demand as well as predicting future demand. HMIC has made a series of recommendations to correct these perceived failings, including the adoption of the UK's Code of Practice for Victims of Crime. The second part of the report examines issues like ethics, fairness, and transparency. Among other criticisms, it expresses concern that the Royal Gibraltar Police is not doing enough to counter the risk of corruption. According to HMIC, the issue of corruption, even at a low or subconscious level, didn't appear to be a concern for the force. The inspectorate says it has strong reservations about the analysis of senior managers and officers that Gibraltar's small size mitigates the threat of corruption because any corrupt activity would quickly be reported by the public. It recommends that by November this year, the RGP's senior leadership should determine the best model for providing a counter-corruption capability. The report says the RGP has not recognised the potential for its employees to abuse their position in relation to perpetrating sexual violence. While officers understood that abusing their position for a sexual purpose would be unethical, they hadn't been told the signs to look out for. Unlike their UK counterparts, the Royal Gibraltar Police hasn't briefed or trained its workforce to raise awareness of this issue. It's not all doom and gloom, however. On the whole, the inspectors found a workforce that was professional, committed, and enthusiastic about their work and the force they worked in, a point noted by the Commissioner in his reaction.
For his part, the Commissioner says the RGP embraces the outcomes highlighted by the audit as an opportunity to learn and develop, adding that it has already implemented a number of the review's conclusions. Ian McGrail accepts that there's always room for improvement and says the service provided by the RGP is good, as recognised by the auditors.
Let me start by giving context to the reasons why the RGP is inspected. This is a totally voluntary initiative. We are not bound by any statutory power that we have to submit ourselves to in any form of inspection. And in saying that, it just shows the type of transparent and open organisation that the police in Gibraltar is. Certainly, I've already alluded to it in my statement that accompanied the publication of the report, that I am embracing the recommendations and areas for improvement in a very constructive way, and so is my fellow command team officers. It's a shame that obviously these type of reports tend to highlight where the shortfalls are and don't necessarily highlight where the successes are. But look, we are where we are. I'm looking forward to cracking on and getting those recommendations actioned, and that has been explained in my statement to all of the media. But I say it's a shame that there are some comments there which provide a very overarching and objective reasoning of what the police is in Gibraltar, because the same inspection team that is critical of us also highlights that the RGB provides a good service to the people of Gibraltar, and that the workforce is professional, enthusiastic and committed.
In other news, some local passengers were not allowed on a British Airways flight from Heathrow this afternoon amid concerns it could get diverted to Malaga because of crosswinds. One passenger told us the airline told them the risk of diverting to Malaga meant only people with Spanish residency would be allowed on. Some unfortunate travellers are therefore spending the night in London, while ironically the plane successfully landed on the Rock. We asked the Minister for Civil Contingencies about the mishap. Samantha Sacramento said it was a misunderstanding on behalf of British Airways.
It appears that there was a risk of this afternoon's flight being diverted to Malaga because of crosswinds. Now it seems that people at the check-in desk at Heathrow Airport were not aware of the long-standing relationship that we have and the arrangements that we have in place for people for Gibraltar, and that we do not require Schengen visas to enter into Spain. So because of some misunderstanding, people were offloaded off the flight and arrangements have been made, as you said, for them to return tomorrow. We are in touch with the people who haven't been able to be on this flight to see how we can assist. And the government is also, in particular the Minister for Tourism, is in touch with BA to find out why this misunderstanding happened and what took place to make sure that it doesn't happen again.
In answer to GBC questions, BA said that they're sorry that the threat of bad weather caused a disruption to a handful of customers' travel plans. The spokesperson said British Airways has rebooked these individuals on tomorrow's flight and paid for hotel accommodation and meals to make them as comfortable as possible. One of those having to spend the unexpected night in Heathrow told GBC about her unnerving experience.
If it wasn't for the special assistance team at the airport getting us and finding us somewhere to stay, I wouldn't know what to do. The people with Spanish residency were able to stay on the flight and had people travelling into Gibraltar to collect them and then taking them back into Spain. For me then to find out the flight I was taken off actually landed in Gibraltar. I don't know London and was travelling alone. I hope something is put in place for tomorrow so that I can get back home.
Moving back to COVID-19 now. There are just 3 active cases in Gibraltar. A total of 4,099 tests have been carried out, with 491 pending. At today's briefing by the government, Samantha Sacramento said less than half of 1% of Gibraltar's population has been infected by COVID. She said these numbers are low because of the lockdown and because people are following public health advice. The government minister said a new lab at the university will allow vigorous testing of the community and will work in tandem with the newly formed Contact Tracing Bureau located at 2 points, St Bernard's Hospital and the new Nightingale facility at Europa Point. She said a fast screening test will be used, a test that local consultant microbiologist Dr. Nick Cortez helped to develop in the UK. Testing is expected to increase to 300 tests a day, she said, with results within 24 hours. According to Ms. Sacramento, this should allow the rate of infection to be tracked and will inform the unlocking measures in the coming weeks. And locally, the convent is expected to protest an incursion by the Guardia Civil shortly before sunset last night. Our reporter Michael Beltran spotted the Spanish state vessel being escorted by the Royal Navy. He filmed the vessels in waters off Europa Point shortly after 8:30 p.m. The Guardia Civil vessel appeared to be towing a smaller boat. GBC has put questions to the convent and is awaiting a reply. And before we go tonight, a reminder of our top story. An external audit found that the police is less efficient and less effective than they could be. The Commissioner says the RGP embraces the audit as an opportunity to learn and develop. That's all from the news team, but there's more at gbc.gi. Enjoy your Sunday night and we'll be back tomorrow. Good night.